What it do, people? Back at it again with another video. The MMA guys, you know already how we roll. We're doing the UFC betting scandal. Now, guys, I'm a little bit late for this, but I have been putting this investigation like content together regarding it. And so I wanted to do it today, man. It's not the MMA guys today. The name is Sherlock Holmes, okay? We're figuring it out, whether he did it or not. We're looking at the number, we're building a case, and seeing what it looks like. And so the first thing we're going to look at is how likely was the outcome. Now, we have Yadir Del Valle, who has 4 subs, all in round 1. The outcome, obviously, is that Yadir Del Valle submitted Isaac Dulgarian in the first round with a rear naked choke. Yadir has 4 submission, all by round 1. 3 prior to this fight. His prior UFC fight won by first round rear naked choke as well. Doesn't point it out for it to be that unlikely. Isaac Dulgarian's a grappler. Most finishes are by sub, has a ground and pound finish as well. So it's all about, he's a good wrestler. Figures it out. Connor Matthews, first Yadir Del Valle sub, which in the UFC is first, is other prior fight, as you see here. Connor Matthews also had 4 round 1 rear naked choke. So he was also someone who's able to grapple, who got rear naked choke by him. So it kind of like makes it as Yadir Del Valle could sub Isaac Dulgarian in the first round. Isaac Dulgarian's a 2-2 UFC fighter right now, 7-2. So not all that experienced either. Maybe choked on the smoke. It's a possible situation, just off of this. So this is how we believe. So in and out of itself, the result of this fight isn't that crazy. It's impressive for Yadir Del Valle to do that to a primary grappler, but he did it before in his first fight in the UFC. So that's why people were kind of hyped on him, although he was plus 200 underdog, you know. Next, the numbers, okay? Just at the Hard Rock Cafe, there was $16 million that was wagered on this fight. Now, I've had to do a breakdown on this. I've had to look into it a lot about how much is bet on UFC. For the year 2024, and the sport has grown a little bit, but it hasn't doubled or anything like that in terms of sports betting. Nothing would indicate that because we've been in this gambling epidemic for a while. It's not like they've converted twice the amount of people who bet on UFC or anything. But it was approximately seen as a 1.3 billion market. So we're going to use, on our side of things, we're going to use the $3 billion mark. So that we have 3x the low end, so that we can have a good estimate of what would be bet on most fight, okay? This is our nerdy breakdown. Next we have over 40 event, but we have more than 40 event per year, maybe 44, so that would lower the average, but we're just going to say 40 just to be conservative, so that we have essentially the goal of all of those, like lowballing and eyeballing on the numbers, lowballing on the amount of events, is so that we have a higher end, so that what we present as a figure is like, it should be quite a bit lower than that, but we're going to present that, and even with that, it makes no sense, okay? This is what we're attempting to do now. So that would mean that over the course of 40 events, that would make us at $75 million bet per event, assuming that every single event is equal, so that UFC 322 and UFC Fight Night Garcia versus Onama, they have all the same betting amount, you know? Completely, like, obviously we know that makes sense. Obviously we know that, I'm being sarcastic here. Obviously we know that 322 would make a lot more, but we're going to come back to this after. Then we have at least 12 fight per card. Generally speaking, it's going to be 14. But we had at least 12 fights per card. So that would mean an average fight of 6.8 million bet on every single fight. Now that's from the first early prelim to the main event, which Obviously, there's a big difference between those. So we're going to look at this. Next, we have another slide about the numbers. So we have this situation here that Aaron Bronstetter, it's like a journalist, has reviewed. He was like, in the last 90 minutes, median odds have moved from Dulgarian minus 232 to minus 188. Dulgarian now at a minus 125 spot. The line dropped a full dollar over the past roughly 2 hours. There was like some suspect activity. Like, why is it moving all that much on a... I don't think it wasn't a prelim fight. It was like a first fight of the main or second fight of the main. It was like in the least stacked pay-per-view of all time. Like even least stacked than this weekend, Randy Brown versus Gabriel Bonfim. That card was even less stacked than that. So this is assuming now okay, I just keep going. I'll already break that down, but this is assuming that there's as much bet volume on Apex card as numbered main event. UFC Fight Night is the same as 321 Aspinall versus Gone. This is also assuming most of the money isn't bet on the main event. Okay? If we look at the numbers, look at the Cyril Gane Octagon interview. It has twice as much as Steve Garcia, who's the winner of the main event. And this was a no contest. We have Tom Aspinall's Octagon interview, 778,000. Mackenzie Dern, 227. You know, if you want to look at a video that has less than the main event interview, you have to look at Azamat Mirzakhanov, who's like a very under the radar fighter, fought in like the first or second fight of the main event for that card. Then we have Quillian Salkio at a big KO, Ludovic Klein. Like every single one of these has more views than the Yadir Del Valle interview, which probably got a lot more traction after the betting scandal, you know. We have this those numbers, if you look at them, if you pause this video and just look at them for what they are, you just see that there is so much. There is only a fraction, only like a fifth or a fourth, at least a fourth, like a third or a fourth of the attention on an Apex card compared to a fight, compared to a numbered card, you know. But we're still not going to assume a crazy amount. Now, the numbers 4.0. If we're going to try to build it together, build a case here, and let me know what you think of it. So since there's only a fraction of the engagement on number event, and if we assume that 25% of the bets are for the main event, I've looked at the figures on those that we have. It generally speaking, there's going to be one fight. Like for example, in the Marab, Islam versus Moicano with like that was supposed to be Armin, and Marab versus Umar. The Yuri fight like got a lot of betting on because everyone's so big on Yuri. Yuri's like one of those guys that everyone's gonna bet on because his odds are always like weird, super close against anyone. But in this, like, generally speaking, the main event is gonna cover most of the betting profit. The very conservative number is 25%. They say generally speaking it's gonna be it can be like 70, sometimes 50. It's always a big part of it. So that's why I kept the 25%. And we're going to assume that there's only twice the betting volume on numbered event. If we do that, okay, we had 13 numbered event, 27 fight night, not even going to make a difference between Apex and UFC Rio. You know, we're not going to make a difference between the fight nights that are with people like UFC Rio, the people who are there betting a lot more and all of that. We're not going to make a difference between that. We're going to keep Apex cards and UFC Rio type cards the same. And so we're just going to say that 50% of the betting volume was on number events and the rest divided equally because it's 13 to 27. So this is even better for us technically by one event, which is not going to create much. So we're just going to say that $1.5 billion is divided across 27 event, which would be 55 million per event, then 25 on the main event. So that leaves us at 41.25 million to be divided upon 11 fights. Usually a full event is 14. Just going to keep it this way. That would average 3.75 million per fight, which makes more sense. But we have to remember that this is like the least stacked event of the whole entire year. Genuinely speaking, there was nothing to bet on in this fight, on this card. The idea, we're just gonna come back. The idea that $16 million being wagered only at the Hard Rock Cafe. That's if you exclude this number, like, well, not really exclude this number as a whole, but because it is a part of it at the Hard Rock, but like the bet 65, bet 365, bet 99, stake, all of the people who bet on that is not included in that 16 million. So maybe in total it was like 20, maybe it was more. Like, this is crazy. It's over 400% of it. Okay. So if we assume 3.75 million per fight, which is way higher than what it should be, and there was 4 times the volume on this fight than the average. And that's very eyeball, because the 375 million, even that comes from an eyeball place. You know, if you're more conservative, it's just that it's so hard to get gambling numbers, you know? So you have to like assume a higher end so that you can make people happy about it. So there was over 4 times the volume on this fight than the average. On the least stacked event of the year, on like the worst event possible. And why was the time frame of 90 minutes? Like he said, did he say couple hours or 90 minutes? Roughly 2 hours. Yeah, in the last 90-minute median odds, they moved already. And then in over 2, like you add another 30 minutes over that. Minus 25. You shift then even bigger right after on an underdog of 2 fighters with very small followings. If you look, it's not like Mauricio Rufy was fighting on this card and like he fought at third fight and it was that way, it was like underrated. Isaac Dulgarian has 11.2 thousand followers and Yadir Del Valle has 34.4K, which I know it's big compared to you and me, but this is extremely small. Like those are not money making. Like everyone's tuning in to see Isaac Dulgarian fight, man. 11.2 is so low, and 34.4K. That's not big either. It's not like it's really not moving anything. So there's something suspicious here. The case. Now we look into it. First thing that we have is that he was never submitted before, and now he was first round subbed as an over 200 favorite before the big betting odds shift. Which, to be honest, that's not that big of a deal on its own. It's hard to establish good odds on fighters without that much experience, where you don't have that much footage. So it's hard to establish accurate odds most of the time. The betting volume is way out there, over 400% of the volume of the average fight night with our eyeballed number, which is a big deal, and that's at the Hard Rock alone. So it could be like 450%, 485%, overall. We don't really know. But this is this is a bigger deal. This is a lot bigger deal. Then we have this thing that backs up. We have other fighters' testimony of being approached to throw a fight. Now there was Vince Morales who came back for it. We don't know if it's because UFC like called him like, hey, what are you talking about? Take that out. But we have like Mark Hunt who said he was paid 3 to 4 million to do it. We have Lando Venata who said that he's been approached at multiple times to do it. He hasn't done it. And we have, I think her first name is Vanessa Demopoulos. I don't remember what her first name is, so sorry. But a ladies fighter, WMMA fighter, Demopoulos, also said that she was approached. So we have a little volume of people approach. And granted, Marquand, it's old report and stuff, but we have like these kind of like older and newer fighter all are agreeing that they have been approached, and so that's not really a big deal. And so let's say it was never submitted before, and just that, then we'd be like, okay, well, that's not enough. It's a little bit of a like you're linking two different things together with slight correlation, but nothing really crazy to go on. The UFC did not defend him, and DC at the commentary booth was very surprised at the end with the ending and lack of submission defense. Like it was repeated multiple times. He was like, I don't understand how he let that happen, and his reaction after the fight, after being sub, Isaac Dulgarian just like nodded no, like God damn it, you know. It was an interesting turn of event, and I think we have a very big deal with the betting volume. The other testimony, which kind of supports that this is a possibility. Him being submitted in the first round without much submission defense as a primary grappler, which is very interesting stylistically. And he was a quite a bit favorite, so people were kind of hyped on him, like being like, not necessarily, but Yadir Del Valle had a win. Like he had a submission in the first round in his first UFC fight. And people still thought Isaac Dulgarian would beat him. And so for him to get completely subbed like that and not show any submission defense, also interesting. And the UFC not defending him and more so going with he said that he called it the, Dana White said that right after they called the FBI being like, hey, yo, what's going on here? So this is what we have, and this is the case that we're building. Now with what we got, what do we think? This is a photo of Judge Holden from Blood Meridian, which is the judge, but I thought it fit well since we're giving a verdict. So my honest opinion is I think that Isaac Dulgarian is guilty of taking a fall. Just taking a fall from boxing, but I think he's guilty. I think he gave up in that fight for money. I think also the fact that UFC fighters as a whole are not really paid well. He's 2-1. It's not. He's 7-2 overall. It's not like he's going to be a world champion or anything. It's not like he's looking like he's going to be a world champion, at least. Seeing it happen this way with all of the evidence from this case that we're building, looking over the numbers, him being submitted like that as a grappler, the other testimony, the UFC also thinking that it was suspicious, calling him ahead of the fight and him saying, no, I'm going to kill this guy. Turns out not really. I think with their financial situation with the UFC, I think this is extremely likely that it happened. I would be surprised if this was proven to not be true, let's just say. And when it comes to his sentence, though, what he should get for it, he's already been released from this UFC contract. Even if he wins like 3 fights in Cage Warrior, like impressively, UFC's not going to go back to signing this guy off of what he did. So he's completely blown his chance at being a fighter, which a fighter where he's going to be able to make money off of it, kind of, to a certain extent. He's kind of blown his chance with that. No real organization's really going to take their chance on him because of that. I don't even know if PFL would take him if he showed impressive in Cage Warrior or something. Yeah, I think he's gotten the punishment he deserves for it. So, nothing else, I don't think. Also, he's done it probably because he's in a... And the crazy thing as well, if you think about it, is that he's probably not going to... Let's say that it was set this way and that he was going to get some money. Let's say he was going to be paid, like, I don't know, $150,000. There's no way anyone's really going to be able to wire money to him in big amounts to... like, without... Like, if he's in this situation, the FBI is looking into it and stuff, there's no way that he'd get this money wired to him because he'd get completely... he'd get caught and he'd probably go to jail for it or something. So, probably not even gonna get, like, he's probably not going to receive the money for it. Insane stuff. If you really think about it, or he's going to do it later, but I mean, that part's all speculative. So I'm going to leave you with what I've done for this. I hope you've enjoyed this. I worked slightly hard on the PowerPoint for it. I know I posted a little bit late, but I had to, take the time to build the case, figure out the data points and everything. And so I hope you've enjoyed this video. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe. And until next time, guys.